When I first started playing Guild Wars 2, I was immediately taken with the way the base game looked. But it was when I started to get into the expansions that I noticed that the environments and the aesthetics really went up a notch. From Heart of Thorns through to End of Dragons, ArenaNet were really crushing it in every way. Unlike a lot of people, some of whom felt it necessary to inform me of their subjective preferences in my comments, I really like having the bloom on. I'll probably get cancelled for that as much as a man with this few followers could get cancelled, but fuck it, I love it. And I love how, along with the sort of painterly style, it really gives a hazy, magical and mystical feel to everything. I've spoken before about World of Warcraft and how that looks, and that a strong identity to your style goes further than any amount of polygons and realistic graphics, and Guild Wars 2 is right up there with WoW, sticking its chest out and fucking peacocking about the place. Coming to the game late in its life meant that I got the pleasure of playing through the Heart of Thorns, Path of Fire and End of Dragons one after the other, completely unbroken. So my first Guild Wars 2 expansion release experience was Secrets of the Obscure, and then followed up with Janhtir Wilds. And whilst the quality of the environments didn't necessarily drop, coming off the back of those three amazing expansions, they sort of fell a little flat. Secrets of the Obscure was okay, but I just kind of thought it seemed pretty lazy to sort of reuse bits of environments from other places, and the enemies were, well, I don't really know what they were, just all fucking limbs and claws and bits and pieces. It's like watching a Michael Bay Transformers movie and trying to figure out where the fuck Optimus Prime's head is amongst the whirling nonsense of a million bits of metal. But besides not really knowing what I was fighting, I didn't mind it, and overall I had a good enough time. I think I was just happy to have somewhere else interior to poke about for a bit. Then Janhtir Wilds came along, and I thought there were some nice looking areas, but I didn't really jive with the whole teddy bear's picnic thing. But I enjoyed it well enough. Again, just happy to have some more content to run about in. So perhaps I had lowered my standards a little in light of those experiences and had set my phases to whatever for Visions of Eternity. I'd also had a go at the new Specializations trial as well, and I wasn't totally sold on them. But then the day come, and I loaded in, and what I found blew my flaps off. Okay, so maybe that is a little hyperbole and overly dramatic, but I am calling it right here and now. We are fucking back. As always, we start our new expansion by receiving a mail letting us know where to go, and then we do a little bit of customary chit-chat, and then we are to set sail for Kastora, an island thought to be lost to the world, and the Inquest are searching for it to get their hands on some evil stuff. Who are the Inquest? Just a bunch of bad bastards. I've said before, I'm not really a story guy, but Guild Wars 2 always delivers its story to us in such a way that I can absorb the bullet points and carry on having fun. What more do you need to know? We're essentially racing bad guys to an island to find powerful artifacts for evil shit, and we are going to stop them. Classic bad guy story stuff. But that isn't to say that there isn't a bit of intrigue along the way. No spoilers here, don't worry. But back to the game. We need to get on some ships and then make our way out to sea and adventure to this hidden island. And they have really made an intro quest that visually represents this journey. You have to do a few fetch tasks, kill various monsters that board the ship, and navigate from atop the crow's nest. The whole thing plays out over several in-game weeks, and eventually you arrive on the island, and the moment I have all been waiting for, the customary ArenaNet Presents title screen. Like a warm hug from a big cuddly char. Meow. Once we load onto the island, you are immediately hit by how beautiful this new area is. I think the main thing I'll point out about why I like the look of this new expansion is that it is just so bloody colourful. Even though I grew up wearing nothing but black band t-shirts and black jeans and black slip-on Vans, I have always loved colourful, juicy graphics. See my Super Nintendo versus Mega Drive argument many videos back. I was a Super Nintendo kid, and those graphics always popped. In addition to the colour is another element that I have always really loved about Guild Wars 2, and that is the water. Sure, Sea of Thieves has amazing water physics, but skimming across bodies of water in Guild Wars 2 with the light shining off them has always blown me away. Smash the two together and you get something magical. Now, one of the main tenets of Guild Wars 2 design is adventure. From the base game to the deepest jungles and deserts, the game wants you to explore. Map completion is a thing, and one of the best things about the game is that you can sort of just roam about. And to aid our roaming, this expansion also follows in the footsteps of Janhtir Wilds and boosts one of the existing mounts like they did with the Warclaw. This time around it is the Skimmer, a mount I have always been pretty fond of. Just like the Warclaw, they have made this mount extremely multi-purpose now. Not just for underwater traversal, but you can pretty much fly as well. Put in leyline travel and there isn't anywhere you can't go. And just look at some of these jazzy skins. The bee in particular is great. Sort of gives, what if we crossed a massive bee with a flying beanbag and then made it go underwater? I'm going to circle back to the bee thing later, but let's keep talking about the questing in the first zone. The way the questing is designed here means that at different times you will be required to explore and find numerous items before you can then continue with the story. I've seen a few people moaning about the progress being locked behind tasks like this, and I have my thoughts on that, and I am not totally in disagreement with the sentiment, but in a different way to what some of these Steam reviews are saying. I'll get to the gripes later, don't you worry. But I actually think that this made me slow down a bit. As a man with a bit of ADHD, did I mention that before? Sometimes the freedom to just bugger off somewhere else meant that I often found patches of maps in the open world where I hadn't yet been. But this made me spend a bit more time in the environment and meant that I naturally came across vistas and world quests and hero points. So I don't really see a problem with this at all, and I felt my progression over 3 or 4 nights was never held back. But talking about hero points and progression, let's talk about the new specializations. Because not only did we get a new storyline with new areas and new skins and mounts, we also got a whole new specialization as well. It is really starting to feel like a proper expansion here. As I said, I played the class trial briefly and I found some of the classes a little bit awkward to be honest, but when I got back into the full expansion, the 2 I played felt a lot better. I don't know if they tweaked the builds a lot, but the Troubadour and the Gale Shot felt great. The Gale Shot in particular. I did play through first with the Mesmer and then restarted with the Gale Shot once I found my Mesmer kept getting rinsed. Skill issues aside, it is clear the Mesmer, as it always sort of has been, is a more advanced class with the requirement to consider more moving parts and actions per minute, trying to keep your various instruments playing to keep maximum boons up. Safe to say I was not up to the task. But the Gale Shot really clicked for me, and I was mullering stuff with ease, even though I haven't fully decked her out in ascended gear yet. Another thing for me personally that I found the new classes gave me was the opportunity to craft my own build. Now of course you can always do that at any time, but whenever I would try something new I always ended up going to a guide and sort of ended up being influenced by that to some extent. And obviously the guide writers are damn fast, but the class guides aren't yet at the same comprehensive level as the past specializations that have been about for years, so it forced me back into a more organic DIY style. And I have had a lot of fun sitting there and reading the tooltips and thinking about what passives I might hang it all off. I'm sort of trying to build a bleed-based condition damage build for the Gale Shot, which I need to keep working on and get some appropriate gear to really amp that up, but it is fun, and I have been having fun wailing on the robot in the testing area. I remember entering the second zone and thinking, wow, so colourful, many plants, etc, etc. And it was probably at this point that I was sold on my opinion that this might be the prettiest expansion yet. Of course, subjectivity is always a consideration, but let me know if you agree in the comments, or tell me what you think are the most beautiful environments in Guild Wars 2. I quested through this area with my Mesmer, and when I got to a stage where I had to infiltrate an Inquest building, I got beat up so bad it made me reconsider my life choices. So I decided I would start again and get the Ranger into this expansion. So hereby starts a fucking stupid endeavour that highlights one of my gripes with Guild Wars 2 and sent me on a long mission which ultimately led nowhere. If we cast our mind back to the bee from earlier, This skin, coupled with what might be some level of OCD, meant that an idea birthed in my mind. See, looking at that big old bee made me think, wouldn't it be rad to have a bee pet to go with it? Double B, if you will. And so off to the internet I goes to find out where I could obtain this juvenile bee. Turns out it was part of the Janhtir Wilds expansion. Okay, no problem. We'll just do the quest to get into Janhtir Wilds, as I hadn't played through that on this character, and then I can get the bee and we're off to Castora again. But turns out there was a problem, and a problem that highlighted another point about how much better Visions of Eternity is than its predecessor, Janhtir Wilds. That is how goddamn long and boring it is. Standing around in a fucking circle while everyone blathers on and on and on. And once I got through all that, I find that the bee is actually in the area that was released in the final patch of Janhtir Wilds. So even though I have played through the whole expansion with my Mesmer, I had to play through it all again just to get the sodding bee. Now a quick note on the bee. I was chatting to some friends and I got a little bit excited and misremembered the bee and thought it shot lightning out of its arse or something. So imagine my disappointment when I finally obtained the bee and it just throws a beehive at its enemy. So I'd spent hours fuck-arsing about to get to this moment only for it to be a dud. To be fair, the bee does have like an interrupt or stun or something, so maybe its value lies in PvP or something. Either way, I decide to keep it and off I go back to Castora. So this is my gripe I would like to see ArenaNet address. Don't make me play through stuff I have already played through. If I have unlocked it, just let my other characters go there once I have already completed it. I mean, even if it was just the intro missions, that would be a help. I mean, come on ArenaNet. WoW have been giving us this option for years with the option of, haven't I heard this story before? And you say yes, and then bosh, you're right into the expansion. So rather than WoW stealing your ideas, perhaps you should steal one of theirs for once. Having to play through the same story for however many alts you have doesn't feel great. But one thing I will say about the latest expansion is that it doesn't take as long this time, and as some of your progress relies on you unlocking the achievements and subsequent skills for your skim amount, these achievements are account wide, so the second time around I could just breeze through, as it were. Little Gale shot joke for you there. Maybe this is to stop botting or something, but there must be other ways of combating this. I just don't want to do it over and over and over. So whilst I do have this annoyance, in reality this time it didn't take long for me to get back to where I was with the Mesmer, and I didn't have the same problem this time, and I handed them their stupid Inquest backsides. One last small gripe is that there were a few issues with rendering, some of my clothes didn't seem to appear at times, and some pretty horrendous lag. But this only affected me once the whole time and it lasted about half an hour, but during that half hour, the game was literally unplayable. A little hiccup in an otherwise great experience. I did go on another little adventure because I got this bird helmet, and so paired with my macaw wings, I had to get a matching pet. Not to mention, I needed a pet with a bleed attack, and the Gale Shot specialization has a passive that boosts avian or feathered pet damage. So off I go again, and this time up to Ascalon. So behold, Farthawk. And so it was that I carried on playing through the expansion, and all the great elements of Guild Wars 2 were there. In particular, that great feeling that comes from pootling around looking for artifacts in the open world, and I see people coalescing around a point, and before you know it, you've been swept into a meta event, which then turns into a frantically sweaty 30-minute fight for my life, while chaos reigns all around me. At present, I am just finishing off the last little bit of the launch expansion, and then I will probably have a little look at the player housing. I'll be honest, the Big Bear Cottage vibes didn't do it for me, but a beachfront property amongst the beautiful sunshine, well, that's a different thing altogether. So maybe this is the chance for me to explore that side of the game, one that I don't usually get involved with. So to summarise, this expansion has reinvigorated my love of the game, which to be honest was never really in doubt. So I look forward to the coming patches and hoping that they can continue this quality and then finish strong. Bravo, ArenaNet. Bravo. Thank you for watching. If you haven't played Guild Wars 2, what have you got to lose? There is a generous free trial of the game and the expansions are reasonably priced. And if you end up liking it, there is literally a decade's worth of content for you to work through. Hope you enjoyed the video and hopefully I'll catch you on the next one.